Good afternoon, and welcome to our session on innovation in the courts. I'm your host, Niamh Pollack. I'm Vice President of Legal at Clio. So over the last few days at ClioCon, you've heard a lot about Clio's mission, which is to transform the legal experience for all. As a purpose-driven company, Clio is committed to increasing better access to justice. We democratize how legal services are managed and accessed by providing a low-barrier, affordable cloud-based solution which is available to all lawyers. But what about transforming the court experience for all? Today I'm joined by an innovator, a thought leader, a lawyer and a judge who single-handedly takes the macro and breaks it down into the micro, and a man who vows to outlast anyone who dares to tell him no. I'm very honored to introduce you to Judge Scott Schlegel of the 24th Judicial District Court for the parish of Jefferson in Louisiana. Judge Schlegel was a civil litigator and a felony prosecutor before being elected to the bench. His early and extensive use of technology to improve accessibility and efficiency in the courtroom led to his appointment as the chair of the Louisiana Supreme Court Technology Commission in 2020. This is a judge who is a pioneer in using technology in the Louisiana state courts. He's been the recipient of numerous awards, including one of the highest judicial honors in the US, as the recipient of the 26th Rehnquist Award for Judicial Excellence. He's also a graduate of the prestigious Presidential Leadership Scholars Program, where he learned from national leaders, including President George W. Bush and Bill Clinton. Judge Schlegel has propelled the Louisiana courts into the digital age with positive collateral consequences for all court users. And today we're going to find out how he did it. Welcome, Judge Scott Schlegel.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for having me. All right, well, I'm going to stand up because I can't stand this sitting down thing. And this is going to be interactive, so, we'll have a little Q&A at the end of this. So we're here at ClioCon. Have you ever seen a judge running around these legal tech, conferences? They're pretty fun. I just kind of learn a lot from you all. And so, you heard Jack Newton talk earlier today about the client-centered law firm. What about the client-centered court? So we at Schlegel Tech, get it? The whole legal tech. Come on. This is my startup within the judiciary, and I feel like a startup because I can barely scale this thing. My burn rate is way out there, and so I truly feel like a startup within the judiciary. We're really trying to modernize the justice system using off-the-shelf no-code products that anybody can use to improve the efficiency, the effectiveness, and the accessibility of the court system. And so I got on Fiverr, hired some guy for like $40. He built this logo for me. And then I got an avatar built just because that's what you do, right? You got to get an avatar built. And started this process of kind of talking about how do we modernize the justice system. And if you've been in the legal system for a long time, here are the top 5 objections that we always talk about. Number 1, we can't do that. This is how we've always done it, right? How many of you all love that answer? Drives me crazy. Don't tell me that, because we're going to have issues if you tell me that. Objection 2, we cannot afford it. Now look, some of these objections are legitimate. It is expensive to do some of these things. It's difficult to do them. We don't have an IT. When you go through a lot of the state court systems, there really is no budget for these different technologies. They don't have an IT department traditionally, and if they do, it's the IT department that handles the servers, gets you the laptop and says, here, Judge, here's Outlook on your laptop. That's really IT. There's no legal technologist in the court system. So these are legitimate objections, but I'm going to help you all overcome those objections throughout this process. We don't have the time. I subscribe to you that you don't have the time not to pause and fix the inefficiency of the system, because once you become a more efficient and effective justice system, you realize, wait, how did I live without that? Anybody who ever says that, ask them to show them their iPhone and then take that from them and see if they, it took you a little bit to learn it, right? But now you can't live without it. Fax machine, computer, on and on and on. And the proverbial they will never go for it, all right? They won't. So just move on without them and leave them there, and then they will, if you build it, they will come. Here's what I would say to anybody out there. Any judge or court administrator can improve the justice system for under $1,000 a year in any jurisdiction in the entire country. And I'll show you how we do that. And the first step, build a website. Build a court website. How many times do you go, what's the judge's phone number? Wait, the fax number. What's the fax number? Why is it so difficult to find me? It shouldn't be. And so how do you build a website? There are so many products out there. I mean, I'm not going to rattle off names of you all know them out there. There are so many different website builders that you can use and learn and figure out how to use. And it costs you $300 a year with a domain name to build that website. Making a decision is the tough part. That really is the tough part. Again, a simple $300 website can improve the justice system overnight. So we're talking about these objections. I can't afford it. Yes, you can. Any court in the entire country can afford $1,000 a year. It might be tight, but $1,000 a year, you can figure it out. And these $300 websites, I'm going to start talking to you and start building and building and building and showing you how simple this process is. If you understand your workflow, really understand your workflow, and build your partnerships with all the different agencies, then you pick your tech stack. The tech stuff is pretty simple. I mean, you have folks like CleoCon and all these other companies out there that are spending the millions and millions of dollars developing it. So all I do is take off-the-shelf products that already exist, because I understand my workflow better than you. I understand the partnerships and have built those partnerships, and then we start taking off-the-shelf products that fit our budget, that fit our workflows, and that fit our security requirements that we have as an organization and as a court, because we are not a private run entity. So we have a lot of different things that we need to consider. Feature number one, we just talked about it, contact information. Give them the phone number. I'm not giving you my email, so that's not going to be on that website. But you can have my phone number, the fax number, and all the different things. Who's the civil minute clerk? Who is the criminal minute clerk? Who's the bailiff? Who is your law clerk? How do we get in touch with these folks? Put it on there. Video conference hyperlinks. How many times now that Zoom court is a world do you go, what's the link? Can somebody share me the link? Can somebody share the password? Put it on your website. Every judge in our jurisdiction, you simply go to their webpage and there's the link to their static video court. Just push the button. Put it on there. It's an easy embed, and you can fancy it up and make it a button instead of just a hyperlink. There's a lot of wonderful things that these can do. Important links. What's the clerk of court? What's the Supreme Court? What is the sheriff's office, the prosecutor's office, the public defender's office, all the things that you all use on a consistent basis. Put it on there. Orders and forms. Don't get me started on orders and forms, right? How many times do you have to drive to the courthouse to get a simple form? Doesn't have to be fancy. Just take all of the different forms that you use on a daily basis, put it in a PDF hyperlink. And I know people don't like when I say use a simple PDF, but yes, use a simple PDF, put it up there. Look, we're going to get fancy as we go along. We can do guided forms. We can do fillable PDFs, which is, well, I know it's pretty good. And then just kind of layer and layer and layer. And look, I understand that every judge has his or her own rules. Put your standing orders on your individual page. So when you build these websites, it should all look and feel the same. And where you can start to nuance it is how the judge wants his or her information to be presented. And that judge can then give whatever instructions they have for their page. Embed an online calendar. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Lagniappe, for all you all not from Louisiana, that just means extra. All right. So lagniappe is a fancy word. It's like saying voir dire. It's lagniappe here. All right. Frequently asked questions. Ask your colleagues, ask the clerks, ask the folks that answer the phone. What are the most frequent questions that you all receive on a daily basis? And simply build a web page, put the frequently asked questions page on there. Attorney sign-in sheet. This is pretty important in our virtual court world. When you normally come to court physically before the pandemic, you go to the podium, you sign your name as the attorney signing in on behalf of. There's no equivalent in the virtual court world. And so that's very confusing, not only for you, but it's very confusing for the court. And so when you join Zoom, you're sitting there in the room going, does the judge know I'm there? Does the judge know I'm there? You're sitting in the black hole wondering if the judge knows that you're there. And then you call the court. Does the judge know that I'm there? Yes, we know you're there. Just hang tight. We got another 20 other cases that are going. We're going to get to you. So by embedding a sign-in sheet, by using a simple, you can do a Google Doc, or you can continue to get more sophisticated. But it's as easy as just doing an easy web-based form on these websites that are built in so that you can sign in for your case, and then we know that you're there. And this is one of the biggest things that you can do with websites. You can actually create what I call apps. So I'm a trial court judge in the state of Louisiana. I handle criminal, civil, and domestic. Anything from a possession of cocaine to a murder charge, to a slip and fall car accident, to a car accident and a multi-million-dollar litigation, contractual dispute, to child custody, divorce, anything you could think of, we handle. And so we also handle drug courts and specialty courts for specialized supervision programs. Native apps, as we all know, are insanely expensive, and you can't really modify them as quickly. You can build apps on any page that is not public-facing. It's not private. You can password protect it if you like, but you can put all the critical information, so a drug court probationer, for instance, name and phone number of their case manager, name and phone number of their probation officer, all the various different programs within your community where they can get a drug screen or they can find somebody that they need a social service. You can put all that there and share it and save it to the home screen of their phone so it looks like an app and it provides all the critical information that you need. Think of that for every different use case that you have that you use on a daily basis as a court. When you're trying to schedule inmates to come in from virtual hearings, we create hidden web page for our clerks so that they're not, who do I need to call? Where do I need to send an email to that facility? Push the button of the facility and it generates a pre-populated email. Again, as you can see, these emails on these embedded web pages are phenomenal for the efficiency and effectiveness of the courts, and we're making it more accessible. One of the easiest ways to show people you care about them is to value their time. How many people love the DMV? I mean, they get Christmas cards sent to the employees of the DMV because that's how much, that you care about them and they care about you, right? Why do we do this in courts? Why do we say, hey, look, everybody show up, 100 people. When I get home on Thursday, I have about 100 criminal cases on my docket. Let's just set 100 people at 9 o'clock, right? I mean, that's useful. Or on your civil day, let's just have a rule day where I got 50 civil cases set. Everybody show up at 9. You like me when I do that, right? I mean, you actually like me. How about we get rid of the big red book and purchase an online calendar? So when I got elected in 2013, I went to my minute clerk, and she had this big red book. This big red book exists in your court, in your state too. To get a date for your case, what happens? You got to call the clerk. We got to find the phone number first because they don't have a website. Once you find that number, you then call the clerk and say, hey, I've got a motion for summary judgment or a motion to compel discovery. Can I have a date? Let me call you back. Or, get the person on the phone and you have to leave a message. And then a couple days go by and you get annoyed and you have to send a runner and spend all of that money to get a date. That, by the way, was never cleared with opposing counsel, so we're going to have a motion to continue that follows up later, right? So I took that big red book, and I was bad-mouthed for quite a few months for taking that big red book. And I bought an online calendar. This was before the pandemic existed. My calendar is set a year in advance. So why not put that calendar online for you, the lawyer, to go online? You can go online right now to onlinejudge.us, which website I built for $150, $250 a year. Go on there. There's an embedded calendar. Pretrial conferences are at 9 o'clock. I offer 20 pretrial conferences at 9 o'clock. so that you're not sitting around. If you have a motion hearing, I offer 10 motion hearings at 10 o'clock so that you're not sitting around learning about a slip and fall when you're a med-mal attorney. You don't care. And you don't want to sit there and bill your clients for that hour's time that you don't care about. So go ahead, put it on a calendar, call opposing counsel, make sure it works for everybody, dump it on your Outlook calendar, and I'm going to send you text and email reminders with a video link before Zoom was a word. How's that sound? Yeah? Client-centered court. Look, I am a public servant. I serve you. It's my job to be available to help you resolve your disputes. It does not take my authority away when I say that. I understand what my job is and what my role is. That doesn't mean that it needs to be all centered upon me. I'm supposed to be there for you. And so if I can use an online calendar that costs me $150 a year to help your life out, well, that's a win-win for everybody. And this online calendar I use for criminal too. 100 people show up at 9 o'clock. Number one, it's mayhem, right? Security is going, please, judge, stop doing that. And out of that 100, 15 don't show? 5 are running. We'll issue warrants and we're coming for you. 10 people forgot. So how about we allow them to give us their phone numbers and emails and I say, hey, look, you can come at 9, 10, or 11. I don't care. I can't get through 100 cases. You might have to take your kids to school. You might have to take public transportation. You might have to bum a ride or go to an appointment. What time would you like to show up at court? I allow the defendant to select that time. And then we send them text and email reminders too. Online calendars will increase public safety and drive down this cost of civil litigation. And we could learn a thing or two about dentists. How many people have ever missed a dental appointment? I have not. They text you relentlessly. I don't know what it is about dentists, but like at dental school, they go, look, you need to text these people, and if they don't answer those texts, you need to call them. And if you don't call them, go knock on their door. Dentists will make sure that you show up to the appointment. So why don't I do that? And look, every time I go to a dentist's office, they do a pretty good job. There's not like 30 people in the waiting room. They actually stagger those appointments pretty well. You know, you may sit for 20 minutes or so, but you're not going to sit for an hour at a time next to the other person trying to get his or her teeth cleaned going, God, I hate going to the dentist. You might hate going to the dentist for other reasons, but it's not because you're sitting there for an hour at a time. Text and email reminders can cut down and will cut down on your failures to appear. That's really important, not only in the criminal justice system, but also in the civil justice system when you think about default judgments and all those things. Just send people text and email reminders. And not only that, you can send them as many SMSs as you want, as many email reminders as you want. In those email reminders, you can change up the language. Everything that I am saying is nothing that you don't do in your practice as a lawyer or after attending this conference will start doing in your practice as a lawyer. This is the client-centered court. We at Schlegel Tech take this seriously. That didn't work. That joke didn't pan out too well. All right. We are going to have a number of questions, a little back and forth here. Before I do that, obviously everybody knows who Richard Susskind is. He posits the question, is court a service or a place for many years now? If I may be so bold, I'd say it's both. Courts certainly provide critical services, but I'm not an advocate for tearing down the court walls and not having that physical building. There are a lot of things that we do that I believe the court is important, that physical presence. But about 80% of what we do can be handled virtually pretty well and more efficiently using simple off-the-shelf technologies to make our system of justice more efficient, more effective, and more accessible. By the way, I've not spent $1,000 yet. And I've changed the entire system, $300 website, $150 online calendar, and then we start layering and building from there. My speech used to include Zoom, but now that everybody has Zoom, I freed up my budget, so I can now spend more of your $1,000. We can do a form builder if you need a form builder. We can build e-signatures for the courts. Oh, by the way, who loves courtesy copies? You'll love sending us courtesy copies, right? You know, how much postage do you waste? How much printing do you waste? And that fax machine that we have can't take 100 pages, so you keep having to resend it to the court, and then you get tired and spend $100 sending a runner. How about you just drag and drop it on my website and it magically appears in my OneDrive on my iPad, that's the other $300 of my speech, $300 to $500, depending upon what you're looking for in a web form builder. And as you can imagine, we can keep using these same monies for all of our specialty court programs, all of our various different forms, whether it's a plea of guilty form, whether it's an intake form for the probationers who come in and come to our different areas of drug court or reentry court. All these different products can scale. Once you've built them, you can scale. And thankfully, we had a lot of this implemented before the pandemic because we were able to scale overnight. One more thing before we jump in here. Most state courts, a lot of state courts are not unified. There's a really difficult problem with that. But these websites are a beautiful way to unify a court system by building the exact same website for every district in your state. And you can use technology to unify your court system. So that $300 website, if you go to court.com, spell go like a good Louisianian, G-E-A-U-X, go to court.com, you can find about 22 district courts in the state of Louisiana have duplicated these websites so that you, the lawyer and the litigant, can look and feel the same for you when you're trying to access a court throughout the state of Louisiana. You can find about half of them, and we continue to build them every month to unify the court system using very simple technologies.
Thank you. Wow, I feel like Clio has some competition in Louisiana. We better take some notes here. As a lawyer, I feel compelled to thank you on behalf of the legal community for simplifying some processes that shouldn't be complex. It's something you've taken on single-handedly. So on behalf of the legal community, thank you. But let's learn a little bit about how you became a lawyer, how you became a judge, a little bit about your background.
Sure. It was the 90s bust in the financial market, and I was a financial advisor with my Series 7 and 66 and 24 and 53 and kind of navigating that. And my wife, we've been married over 20 years. My high school sweetheart looks at me and goes, "You need to go to law school." So I went to law school at night and became a lawyer. And after graduating from Loyola College of Law in New Orleans, I went on to be a products liability defense attorney at one of the big downtown law firms, and learned a great deal. And decided, let's go do something different, and became a prosecutor. And then you just live and breathe the courtroom as a trial attorney, and you just realize the inefficiencies in the system. And that bothered me a great deal. So I quit my job, took out a major medical, cashed out a 401k. My wife was in school, my son was in school, and ran for judge, and thankfully was elected in 2013.
Wow, Great story. No regrets, no?
None.
So, you've talked about the importance of innovation in the courtroom. You're obviously passionate about it. What comes to mind is, what was the trigger for you? We're all annoyed about a lack of innovation. It's just very few of us, other than Clio, do anything about it. So what prompted you to start building your own systems, like with $100 or $150 online calendar?
Well, once you start looking at, again, first of all, if you understand your workflow, you start looking at how do I fix that workflow? And if you're honest with yourself, you say that metal wire basket where that paper gets passed to another metal wire basket, it gets passed to another metal wire basket. You understand that's not the best way to do it.
Yes.
And so you just start looking out there. And when you start looking out there, you realize that some of these products are very expensive and very difficult to implement. And then when you're dealing with government, you're dealing with multiple agencies, with multiple leaders, with multiple different budgets, multiple requirements. And you get to the point of going, I can't fix the whole thing. So let me look at each individual workflow and see if there's a product out there that matches that workflow and matches my budget and my requirements. Yeah. And then you just start building, and you do something little every single day.
Yeah.
And eventually you get all of this, 10 years later.
Take the macro and break it down into the micro. So one of my pet peeves is, in my practice at Clio, documents that have a fax option for notices, I immediately remove it. So no one has the option to send me a fax. Yep. It's not in the agreement. It's not permitted. Email, electronic, PDF copies only. Okay. Richard Susskind, so you mentioned his very famous quote is a court, a service, or a place. why do we still have courts that run as a place rather than a service? Like when we hear what you've accomplished today, it's so obvious. It's not easy to do, but there seems to be resistance or just a lack of just inertia to updating the court process. You've seen what's happened in the SaaS space for legal technology, companies like Clio, a lot of our partners here, you've seen in the exhibition halls. If we're doing it for practice management solutions, what is the hesitation in the court system?
Yeah, certainly there's a hesitation, and there's always going to be pushback from somebody within your industry, whether it's the courts or whether it's your law firm. If you look at big law, there's going to be this back and forth of what's the best way to do it. So you're certainly going to have that. So putting that to the side, when you think about the court system, judges are jurists. They're not technologists, and technologists are not judges. And so there's this, understanding or lack of understanding from what each of us and our roles and our parts. So if you don't understand what exists, then you don't know to do it. And again, that's kind of why I do this, is run the 4-minute mile so everybody knows that it's possible. When you look at the 4-minute mile, it took 60, 70 years for them to break the 4-minute mile. But once it was done, 2 weeks later, 2 or 3 more people did it. And so the hope is that everybody sees what's possible. Yeah. And then they start doing one workflow at a time, because if you try and take this whole thing on, you're going to get frustrated. And Zoom court, if Zoom breaks when it breaks, then what are you supposed to do? Some judge would say, look, I get it, but I don't have the IT folks to come help me fix this. And if it breaks, then I've got 100 cases I've got to get through.
That single point of failure where you're hesitating with a SaaS product. Yeah.
So it's important to understand that back and forth and the need to get through your cases.
And the need to start somewhere. Right. So go to court.com, the Louisiana moniker. It's a unified court system that unifies online a non-unified system, if I've described it correctly.
That's the hope.
Are there any other states that are following Louisiana as example? Is there any other state that comes to mind?
There are other states that are certainly advancing the ball in technology. Yeah. I don't know to what extent all those various courts are, but they have the ODR type concept, the online dispute resolution, that I know other states are working through that to give folks an opportunity to resolve their matters virtually.
So we'll point them to the gotocourt.com website for some inspiration. Okay. So post-COVID, many of us now spend our days on Zoom. You've talked about Zoom courts. Have you found that post-COVID, the courts have been more enticed to adopt technology in the court system? Like, do you think there's more buy-in before, there was maybe more reluctance? Do you think now people are seeing the light and it's not an if, it's a when?
I think so. I think, if one thing came out of it, it's that we have at least advanced the ball forward at least 5 to 10 years from my perspective in legal technology and the courts. And what I start to see now is people are realizing it's a tool. Again, you don't want to use technology. If you don't understand it, technology is going to hurt you. So, using it as a tool for certain circumstances. So, for instance, again, pretrial conferences. Why are you spending 2 hours plus parking? Spend 5 minutes on Zoom, drive down the cost of civil litigation. Hey, how you doing? Where are we? Discovery. Knock it off. Let's keep the case moving forward. That's what Zoom is for. A very complex, complicated, Daubert hearing, that might be pretty tough on Zoom, especially if the lawyers don't know how to use the share screen. Because, look, don't blame the judges on everything, okay? Some lawyers still go, a judge, can you share the screen for me? No, that's your job.
When they're not on mute, you mean?
Right, yeah. Or if they, you're on mute. That's on the mute, name of my next book.
No, it's a good one.
So, there's a lot of give and take for, the lawyers as well of not understanding how to use the tech.
Yeah, but I think the pandemic, sadly, it has taken a pandemic to propel us into the online world, into the cloud-based world.
And what it's also done for us is that everybody now has, not everybody, but a lot of people now have the proper bandwidth at their home. If you're running a certain megabit per second, you're not able to do it. And so when you found out during the pandemic, everybody went home. Not everybody had the proper laptop. Oh. Not everybody had the proper video cards. Everybody said, oh, you mean this router that I've had for the past 10 years, I can just call the cable company and get a better one? You know, I'm spending $10 a month to rent this thing and they've never sent me a better one. So now with the pandemic, I think the baseline has been set for us as a legal justice system to kind of start layering and building from there, and kind of the old excuses are kind of falling by the wayside now. Yes. And now you're just being obstinate.
It's less defensible. You can't join the party if you don't have the stuff. We do need to figure out how to stop Zoom from freezing, though, because that's when you miss the crux of the argument. It's sorry you were frozen for the last 5 minutes, but that was the good stuff. How could you have missed that? Okay, I'm really fascinated about the dentist and the text message, so I want to talk about that for a little bit. But I'm going to talk about a movie first, which the audience may have seen. If you haven't, put it in your phone and search it up. It's called Changing Lanes. I saw it as a law student, so I was in law school at the time. So the story is, it's a movie from 2002, Samuel L. Jackson, Ben Affleck. It's an incredible movie. So two people driving to court in the morning. Samuel L. Jackson is a father who's been down on his luck. He's been suffering from alcoholism. He's about to get a divorce. And he's turned his life around. He's been going to AA. He's now sober. He's getting funding from the bank to buy a house for his kids to live in the neighborhood. And he's practicing in the car what he wants to say to the judge on the way to the court, driving along the highway. And he's rear-ended by another lawyer, Ben Affleck, who is this uppity Wall Street, high-attitude young gun. And he's also on his way to court, and he has to drop off a very important power of attorney, which is going to prove that this large amount of money has been granted to his firm, and his firm is in financial trouble. So it's high stakes for both of these individuals driving to the court. So when Ben Affleck rear ends Samuel L. Jackson's car, there's this moment of crisis. Like, we don't have the time to figure this out. We have to get to court. And Ben Affleck is this moral dilemma. You know, the firm needs the money. There's maybe some other stuff going on there. If they don't get the money, there's maybe some criminal repercussions. Samuel L. Jackson needs to go and get custody of his kids. So Ben Affleck gives him a blank check and says, we don't have time to share insurance details. Here's a check. Good luck next time, and drives off. And Samuel L. Jackson is left there, misses his court appearance. I'm giving away a bit of the story, but it's an old movie. And sadly loses custody of his children. But it gets better, because there's payback for Ben Affleck, because through the exchange on the highway, he accidentally left his power of attorney on the bonnet of Samuel L. Jackson's car. So go watch the movie. You'll find out what happened next, a bit of a cliffhanger. But as a law student, I remember that scene of the urgency and the need to get to court, because these are life-changing circumstances. As a young law student, I remember thinking, oh my goodness, like, he has to get to court. He needs to go and get custody of his kids. Almost felt like I was empathizing with him, like from, my couch. And I want to learn more about this whole idea of text messaging, and I can't make it to court on time because I don't have childcare. If I get a reminder on time, maybe I can have somebody come and watch my kids, or I can rearrange my work schedule. Maybe I just forgot. I'm overwhelmed. I'm in the court system. This is a stressful time for me. It seems like such a brilliant solution, and yet such a simple solution. So talk to us a little bit about how that has helped, and how other courts can, adopt just simple solutions like that. So it means people don't end up with default judgments, missing their court appearances, and sometimes incarcerated needlessly because they just couldn't make it to court, like poor Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And I hope that what you're taking away from this is I'm not trying to replace anything. I'm trying to layer on top with simple off-the-shelf technologies that already exist, that are low cost, with all of these built-in feature sets. So take the calendaring for existence. My calendar online is not an official anything. It is my official calendar is with the clerk of court that I've provided a year in advance. And then I take that calendar and then I give it to my assistant, who then plugs in my available dates. And then we use that technology, that platform, to then send out as many reminders as we want and not have to pay per SMS or per email. And so we can send as many or as few as we want, and we can send them a week in advance, 24 hours in advance. And every time a criminal defendant appears in front of me, the follow-up question that I always ask is, are you getting your text and email reminders? And they respond yes or no. And when they say no, I say, okay, we'll go give us your phone number and email again. We'll make sure that you're getting your text and email reminders. And I always ask, is it helpful? And, you'll get the anecdotal statement from the guy who goes, last night I got it and it freaked me out and I completely forgot and I'm here today because of that text message. And, these are real consequences. If somebody fails to appear, we will be issuing an attachment for your arrest. And when and if you are picked up, you're going to spend a day or two in the correctional center. Not only are we wasting time of the police officers picking somebody up on a detachment that they forgot, this isn't a risk to our community. Some are, and that's not the point of this conversation, but some truly forgot. And why are we spending time taking our officers off the streets when they need to be there handling violent crimes to bring somebody a few hours away to a jail to sit there, do the paperwork? And then the consequences for the defendant, who is now going to lose his or her job, possibly. If they were in a vehicle, that vehicle is sitting on the side of a road somewhere that might be impounded. There are a lot of different collateral consequences that occur that I can fix with a $150 a year license, and that can be scaled. I can send 1,000. I can send 2,000, and it's the same $150 a year for a online calendar. So just taking that simple off-the-shelf product, these reminders, and it saves me a lot of headaches for the discovery disputes that you civil lawyers like to bring to us. Just figure it out. Look, when you get your reminder, call opposing counsel. Just figure it out, please.
That's it. These are avoidable errors. I have alerts for everything. And internally in Clio, everybody has alerts. They're constantly getting alerts from me. You need to renew the subscription. Right. Don't tell me you forgot. Don't let it auto-renew without renegotiating pricing. So I'm a big favor of alerts and text messages.
And can I add one for you? So we talked about the criminal justice system and all these different programs like specialty courts, like drug courts. In lieu of incarcerating somebody, we're actually trying to help them succeed so that there's no more victims, and we're trying to get to the root of those drug addiction problems. Well, they've got to go meet. They've got to get to work. Yeah. We expect them to work. We expect them to meet with their case managers, their counselors. We expect them to meet with their probation officers. And so we expect our case managers to do that. And we talked about the DMV model. Yeah. So we expect these folks to go sit and wait for their case manager and wait for them to be called. And what happens? They sit there, 30 minutes goes by, they've got another 10 people, and they go to the case manager's office. Hey, Neve, I got to get to work. Mm-hmm. Can you talk to me about this? And you're like, well, I'm with Scott. No, you just go sit and wait. And this process goes on and on and on. What's happening? Our case manager is not able to case manage. And the defendant is so infuriated because he or she has now missed work, or they couldn't pick up their kids, or they had something else to do. And so when you're finally in front of the counselor to talk about that childhood abuse that you went through, which is why you're using, they're not receiving a thing that you're saying because they're so annoyed, just like you at the DMV when the lady said, go get your insurance card, you heard nothing. And then when you went back up, you were like, I don't have it. And the whole thing falls apart. So we use online calendars for the same thing. Hey, case manager, how many people can you see per hour? You're going to have to wait, but we're not going to make you wait for 3 or 4 hours. Remember, show people that you care about them by caring about their time. Yeah. So now we build out our case managers using the same online calendar. We have buy a couple of more licenses so that once you get to 4, you got to go to the next hour slot. And then we send them text and email reminders. And now our case managers can actually case manage. And now we cut down on the failures to appear for those counseling sessions to help people get healthy so that there's no more victims. So these online calendars can be used in any different workflow within the justice system.
And they prevent you getting a parking ticket because you didn't put enough money in the meter.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Because that's my pet peeve when I'm waiting. You're at the doctor's office. You're like, is it going to be an hour, 2 hours? Yep. Some meters you can top up remotely by your phone. Right. In Canada, certainly. But I don't want to overpay for parking, but I don't want a ticket. So, okay, I'm all for it. Okay, I'm going to hand the time over to the audience in a few minutes, but I just want to ask you a few more questions. What has been the single most transformative tech tool that you use in the courts? Like, you've talked about a lot of different solutions, but if there was one, is it the calendar? Is it burning the big red book? What would it be?
So this is going to blow my budget. So, I've got a speech that's, if you give me $5,000 a year, if you give me $10,000 a year, I would say if I was sticking with $1,000, I would say the website, because you can build from there and layer from there and start using that as kind of your foundation and building from there. If I'm spending real money, Slack or Teams really has changed everything. My office is this phone. I have 8 different agencies, whether it's the DA's office, the public defender's office, probation and parole, all these different agencies on this phone so that we can actually react in real time because we're on the right designated channels within that. And so you hear about these specialty courts. If somebody uses in the typical system, if somebody's using, there's a good likelihood of a new crime to affect or something to occur. And most of the time, the courts don't know that somebody's used, even though they had to go take a drug screen, because no one tells them. And then you can't react and take the necessary stops. In my world, if somebody violates a condition, everybody on the team, including the defense attorney, the prosecutor, the judge, the law clerk, the minute clerk, everybody knows in real time. And that person's in front of us within 48 hours because of proper coordination and using these technologies. That's the specialty court realm. For purposes of just my regular criminal dockets. Yeah. Anybody practice criminal? When you have criminal, there's these dockets of like 100 pieces of paper. And whether it's civil, you go to the court and everybody's got a docket with all these pieces of paper everywhere. We don't print those things anymore. The defense attorney, the public defender, the DA, everybody's there, and the minute clerk will publish the docket within our Slack channel so that everybody knows what's going on. If you need to find one of the lawyers, hey, where are you? Your case is here, come on. If you need to share these plea forms back and forth during court, everything's happening in real time in the proper channels. My fax machine's turned off. Every fax comes to me. My e-signature channel. So when something needs to be signed, I'll sign 10 orders as I'm sitting here in the conference because my e-signature, Slack channel just got hit. I pull out my phone, I VPN in, I sign all those orders, and I come and speak with you, Neve, and talk to everybody. And I've even got an online judge pilot program going with civil cases, so I can do everything on a Slack channel with you, the civil attorneys, up until witness testimony. And so literally, tell me a little bit about the case. It's a car accident, judge. Where do we stand on discovery? Is it a judge or a jury trial? Come on. Let's keep the case moving. Post all of your courtesy copies, everything within the Slack channel, and just help you manage the case to a resolution. And then when you need to try it, come on in court. Let's try it.
Amazing. You could even move to Canada and join Clio and operate your courtroom remotely.
Hey, look, Schlegel Tech's for sale.
Yeah, there you go. Why not? Okay, one last question before I open it to the floor. This is a very important question. Is your home as high tech as your courtroom? Does Alexa make you coffee in the morning?
I try to be as tech savvy as I can everywhere. I don't carry keys. It drives me crazy. Yeah. I'm locked out of my physical office all the time because I can't use my Apple Watch just to open the door.
Do you open your house through your phone?
Oh, yeah. You just do
I do it on my phone.
Yeah,
my phone open. Yeah, I do it. I do it from the car. So when I'm taking the groceries, I don't need to stop at the door. The door just opens for me.
The key fob for the car. You push the button.
There's an app for everything.
I can't wait till they chip me.
There you go.
I'm getting chipped.
Yeah, or clone you. Yeah. How about that? Yeah. Cloning. That's a thing. Okay. We do have a mic. So if you want to ask a question, I believe there's going to be someone roaming. And if the mic doesn't reach you, then just please shout out. But please go ahead and ask questions. We've got someone here. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, here we go. The mic's coming. Thank you. Thanks so much.
All right, love the discussion and love what you're doing in your court. I talk to judges in my state, and not to be named, and they come to me for help, and I talk about off-the-shelf products, but then I always get the same response of, well, I don't think we can get clearance to actually use those. So did you go for forgiveness or permission when you started implementing something like Calendly as a Because, traditional IT people would be like, well, that's a shadow IT system that we can't manage. So just could you speak to that for a second?
Yeah, sure. So number one, again, I'm not replacing anything. So I don't need permission to put my calendar online. I'm the judge. Judge Scott is what allows me to do a lot of these things. So I'm not replacing anything. I'm not spending any real money. $150 a year is not real money. I'm far underneath the threshold for public bid laws for $150 a year. I'm not violating any public bid laws. Certain products, whether the big companies, a lot of them are on state contracts, so there's no real need to go get permission. If you wanted to go, Slack's probably on a state contract, depending on your Microsoft Teams is on a state contract. So all these contracts, they're already there. So the clearances have occurred. I don't use freemium. Freemium is a scary word. You have to make sure that you have the right security levels. So my Slack is FedRAMP moderate. If you're going to do it, you need to make sure that you have the right security permission. So, as you're going through this, I think that's an objection, but it's one that can be overcome if you understand it. Again, a lot of judges are not technologists and they're not doing this. That might be a question for the judicial administrator to understand. But again, if you're not replacing something, I'm under the bid laws, I'm purchasing a license. Most of the things that we use are web-based already. At your firms, you remember when they said don't ever use Dropbox or OneDrive because you'll be committing malpractice? And now if you're not using it, you're committing malpractice.
So, yeah, or Clio.
Forgive me. That's kind of the same concept. Look, what about the hacking? Hack the Calendly. That's fine. I'll cancel it, get another license. You're not getting into my servers when you're hacking my Calendly. The whole Zoom bombing. I'm public record. You open the door. You can Zoom bomb me if you want. I kick you out virtually, or I tell my bailiff to get you out of here physically. It's everything I'm doing is public record type stuff as well. So I think if you help people understand that you're not replacing, you're layering as a convenience to the people that you serve, then you can get past those objections. And that's why I always say, start small. Don't do this. Do an online calendar, and just start with civil. Don't do criminal too, because that's a different workflow. That's not public facing. You have to do it differently for the criminal setting because you're just actually using that because it's already a paid for text and email system that you don't have to pay for per use. So understand your workflow, pick your tech stack after you understand your workflow. So we're not replacing anything.
Great question. Anyone else? Raise your hand. There's the mic here. Yeah, over here.
Hi, thank you. So I'm from Montreal in Quebec, and one thing that's new is that people are allowed to be served using Facebook Messenger and also Instagram, like direct messages or DMs. So this, for some people, was considered great for access to justice because a lot of people are not reading their mail or their emails. Do you ever have concerns that by using new technologies, we might be undermining the legitimacy or the seriousness of our courts? So
I can't buy my hologram next year? That is a great question and something you need to be considering. Our state does not allow Facebook Messenger service. We actually just passed a law last year that allows email service for everything but the original petition. But you can't email serve. Like all these text and email reminders are not service. They're reminders. When you were in court, I served you with the next date. So yes, I think that it's important for us to contemplate these things and consider, have we gone too far? Some people would suggest that I've gone too far. And I would suggest I haven't gone far enough. But you certainly should be considering those issues that you've referred to. And again, maybe you use it in civil, but not criminal. Maybe you start in civil because criminal has different implications. So we didn't do the e-service in criminal because of that very thing that you've said. Now, I think that we should go a step further in criminal and allow e-service if somebody opts in, because then it's putting it on them. They probably prefer that than somebody knocking on their door or trying to come over there. Why not just give me your text and email and I'll send it to you if you opt in? Civil, it's meant it's just going to happen that way. So different workflows, do those considerations. And look, there's going to be somebody that doesn't like it, whatever decision you make. So just keep moving forward.
Any more questions? Here we are. One up front.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. It's so inspiring, and it feels like you're a very rare animal in the judicial system with your views. So it's just fantastic to hear. I'm an in-house counsel in a fairly large corporate organization, and I find that the list of objections you shared is very similar to what I'm experiencing in my world. And so my question for you is, when dealing with, in my case, my seniors, in your case, your colleagues, older generation, what's your go-to or sort of your tried and tested influential line that you use when you start talking about embracing technology, and without getting too overwhelming in your advocacy effort?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and something that we all face, at all stages. What I would say is, number one, you have the benefit of the pandemic, because of half of the objections that they had beforehand, now they're realizing that Zoom is a thing and it is useful in certain use cases. So I would suggest to you to, again, just start small and slow and pick a use case. Pick your own personal pain point that is just like, you got to be kidding me. Come on. And just try and sell that one point. And, look, folks are going to say no. That's okay. There are enough problems out there where they say no on that one, you move to the next one, and you just continue to keep moving. And, as Neve said, I'm going to outlast you. You can tell me no today. That's fine. I've got the long view here. I'm going to win at the end of the day. I might lose today. I might lose tomorrow. But, there's so many issues in the justice system that we can work on and work towards, that it's okay if one isn't fixed. Let's go fix the other ones, because if you fix 60% of it, the other 40% is going to fall at some point. And then by that time, you'll be going, you used an online calendar? Come on, because that's old tech, and there's something else out there that's better. So yeah, just stay persistent. Don't get too beat up about it, and just keep moving.
Thank you.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that.
Any more questions? I have another question.
Yeah.
Nobody else has a question. So I've seen your virtual court, which is incredible. It's available on Woline, I believe, to view. Is there a place for AI in the court? Like, this is the entry of AI. You could describe it as you check in. You explain it much better than me. So explain the virtual court that you've designed. And then is there the next iteration where maybe we do have avatars in the court as opposed to transitioning into the regular Zoom channel?
Yeah. So Zoom had its place and it's useful, and I'm not saying get rid of it. But to me, Zoom in the civil setting leaves a lot to be imagined. Again, you're in the black hole and you're going, does the judge know I'm there? You're sitting there. You're not really working anymore. You're just waiting and waiting and waiting. And it's frustrating for lawyers, I know, that you don't know that we're going. So during the pandemic, these types of conferences were no longer possible. And so they built up these different virtual conference platforms that have the floor plan, and you can drag yourself around that floor plan. And if you get close to each other, you can actually pop into a Zoom. So again, Fiverr's dangerous for somebody who's bored. So I had my court designed, and I put it up on one of these virtual conference room platforms. So now when you come to civil court, I've recreated what you are used to in the physical space. So in the physical space, you typically will go to the chambers, you'll check in with the court staff and say, hey, I'm here. You'll see your opposing counsel sitting in the same chambers and say, hey, you want to go out to the conference room and chat about the case while the judge is handling that other motion hearing. So you go do that. So that's what I've designed for civil now. So when you're a civil attorney, you actually pop in to my court. You check in, you drag your little picture to my assistant. Hey, I'm Scott. I'm here for number 3 on the docket. Great, Scott. If you want to go meet with Neve, just pull yourself over to the conference room, and then you all can talk. And I'm actually in court on my bench. You got my little head on my chair right there on my bench. And you can I can hold court. And when that hearing is over, I can actually take over the entire screen of everybody that's there and say, all right, number 3 on the docket, Smith v. Smith, counsel, join me. And counsel pulls himself up to my bench, and we are now handling the other matter while the other lawyers are still hanging out in the conference room or in chambers, or they're off in the gallery by themselves because they want to be left alone. And it works so much better for you lawyers. And then when lawyers get lost, my assistants will run up to them. Hey, what's going on? You just come down here, And it's like little bees sometimes when you're in pretrial conferences, literally like 20 lawyers, just see all the heads flying around. It's fun.
Wow.
So that to me recreates the physical space, because you do miss that with Zoom. And then it allows me not to have to control breakout rooms, and then who's controlling the breakout room and who's doing that. The whole check-in thing is not really necessary because you can see who's there. They've actually physically checked in with everybody. And then my staff can just tell me, hey, Judge, number 3, the lawyers are here for number 3. Great, number 3 on the docket. And I'm physically in court, by the way, and the cameras are pointing at me. So that's a great way to do it. AI, I think from y'all's perspective, AI is probably very helpful from the whole, whittle it down and get to the meat of, review the transcript for me and do all those things. From a court's perspective, I think AI might be useful. I don't think that you should personally, and, this is the don't go too far thing. I don't think AI should be writing my opinions. I think you need somebody to blame and take up and hate on. Scott Schlegel, just hate on me, and that's fine, because that's part of the justice system of having somebody to blame and say they're wrong, which is okay. So I don't think that AI should be writing my opinions. Maybe it helps throw out a rough draft based upon what I've written and just makes it cleaner. Another perspective is the actual record, the transcript. What you're finding is court reporters, we're having fewer and fewer court reporters, and fewer are able to even become stenographers, and people just don't care anymore. So from an AI perspective, AI might be very useful in listening to the hearing and transcribing it,
like voice to text
and voice to text. From interpretive services, look, our jurisdiction spends hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on interpretive services. And so how do we use possibly AI to listen to thousands and thousands of hours of court proceedings to learn our language and learn the translations of what our legal language is so that it can properly transcribe, and then provide that to a stenographer and say, hey, listen to the audio, read what the AI has written, type it up, and not charge you all $2.50 a page, charge you 50 cents a page, or something along those lines. Because if I can feed the AI to learn our language, it's going to get more and more accurate. And then you're not going to have to say, wait, what did the judge say? Why not after a hearing, I provide you with a draft of the transcript? It's not official, but at least you're going to kind of know what I said so that you can draft the judgment and send it back to me.
Start with the things that are uncontroversial, like, hey, let's put a calendar online, let's have a court website. And then slowly, as AI iterates and the OCR, optical character recognition, perfects itself, because that annoys me when it's a misplaced word, or it's a now instead of a not, means a lot of difference in law. And I see that quite frequently. But there's things we can do in the meantime. Okay, we've just got 2 minutes left. So the last question I want to ask you is, you've obviously accomplished a lot. You're very passionate about innovation in the courts. How do you stay so grounded? Being a judge is a high stakes role. You're dealing with critical cases. People's lives are at stake. How do you unwind? What's your purpose other than judging?
I think that it is a purpose to judge. I think to me, this truly is a calling. It's public service. I'm here to truly do work for the community and help serve others. I'm a believer. And so I believe that it is important that we use the gifts and talents that we have to give back to others and to serve others. And so it truly is a calling for me to unwind. During the pandemic, I went through a midlife crisis, and I'm part of a band.
A band? What do you play? You sing?
I sing and I play the guitar.
You wanted the Britney mic, so how
I did.
about
Look,
it?
the only reason
Come
I agreed to this, I said, I want the Britney Spears mic, and I want a white chair to sit in. I've never done the TED Talk before, so yeah.
Great. Okay, well, it's been amazing. I'm really grateful that you came to join us.
Well, thank you for having me.
I've learned a lot in this process, and it's very encouraging to see that it's not just the private practitioners who have the support of this move towards innovation, but it's a trickle-down effect throughout the entire legal industry. And as practitioners, we benefit, and ultimately the public benefits. That's who we are serving. That is better access of justice to all. So
yeah. And
thank you so much.
I've been posting all this stuff at Judge Schlegel as look, if you're not on Twitter, it didn't exist, right? So it created the @Judge Schlegel, and you can see judgeschlegel.medium.com is where these are just kind of feeding. So if you ever wanted to read about it, I'm just putting little short posts so that you can take to your judges in your state and call me. I'll help them.
And you have an avatar on Twitter.
I have an avatar on Twitter, yes.
It's a very good one, too. Well, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.